Okay, I'll call this regular meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission of the town of Clarkdale. Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024 at 6:30 PM. Thank you all for coming. Could I get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Stein,
Please turn on your mic. Sorry,
Present.
we have new mics, so.
Commissioner Biggins,
Present.
Commissioner Lindner. Present. Vice Chair Gabbard
Here.
and Chair Gibson.
Present, thank you. Okay. Are you here for some public comment? Okay, I'll waive the reading of the public comment then. And we can move on to the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for last month's meeting on March 5th.
I so move.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Vice Chair Gabbard, thank you. Okay, is there any discussion on the minutes from the last meeting? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from March 5th, 2024, say aye.
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 Aye, okay, here 5-0, thank you. We'll move on to number 5, new business. Replacement of the windows in the public works and community development buildings. And we're going to be with Community Development Director Ruth Mayday.
No feedback.
Good evening, Commissioners. Before you, tonight, you have the request to take a look at these windows. I know some of you stopped on the way into the meeting tonight and to look at the windows in the Community Development Building and the Public Works Building. The ones in the Community Development Building were replaced probably 15 to 20 years ago. But the sun and weather has not been kind and they have not held up very well. So we're looking at replacing all of the windows in that building. You'll also notice, and it's kind of hard to tell in these pictures, if you look at the muntins on the last window, you can see that they're flat. The other windows, the detail shows a very distinctly raised, tapered muntin, and that's what the replacement window would have. So they would better resemble the original windows. The Public Works Building has quite a bit of trouble with windows. They are leaking quite badly. We have water running down on the walls. We have water ponding in light fixtures. We have paint bubbling, and they all need to be replaced. Those are all original windows, and they would be replaced with the windows I have up here. So we had a contractor come out, take a look at them. From Prescott, they do these sorts of windows all the time. They're made by a company called WeatherTech. So what we would be replacing them with, the windows, so it's basically aluminum cladding on the outside. It's a wooden frame, and then the interior would be a wooden frame that in our building and community development, it would be stained because ours are stained. Public Works, I think, is talking about painting theirs to match the walls that they have. So one of the issues we have with the existing windows is that the sills aren't very tapered, so that water likes to sit right here and then run down inside. These are tapered so that the water will actually shed off the window rather than run into the building. And then this is just a small sample. This would be the muntin we would be getting. It's a raised, the ones that I don't know, I don't think these are quite the same, but they're it's a tapered muntin rather than the flat ones that, like I said, you see on the windows that were replaced in the Community Development Building. So I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has. Do you want to actually touch the windows?
I just had one first question and I'll open it up to the rest of the commission. I noticed there's an amount after the roof repairs. Have the roof repairs been done already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And that took care of the leaking in the light fixtures.
Okay, great. Okay. Did other commissioners have any questions?
Have just a quick question. What will happen to the old windows?
Usually they're disposed of, but if someone has an interest in them, we could probably see what we can do with them. If somebody's interested in them, we can see what we can do.
Did the town look into options for refurbishing the original windows or for adding storm windows, either exterior or interior?
We didn't look at storm windows. We did look at refinishing the existing windows, and a lot of them are so dry rotted that there's just not enough to save.
Commissioner Biggins?
I don't have anything.
There you go.
Commissioner Linder?
There you go.
So will these windows have the same inset as the existing?
Yes, they'll be exactly the same. We're just taking the old ones out and putting the new ones right in the exact same location.
Okay. And with the aluminum cladding frame, is that going to require, going beneath the stucco or,
Yes, there will be some
Would be some
stucco work
stucco
that's done.
repairs.
Yep.
okay. And then just one final question, it's more of a matter of procedure. Does this project have to go at all through a SHPO review?
We're not using state funds, so it's not technically required to go through SHPO review.
But, so we don't have the actual window here, but from what you've seen, it's visually, it's not identical, but it's about as close as,
Yes.
to identical as we can get.
Yes, it is about as close as we can get.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Okay, great. Okay. Was there any questions from the audience on the windows? Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. My name is Drake Menke, 849 Main Street, Clarkdale, Arizona. Concerning the windows on the building, when we look at these windows and we replace them with metal clad, how's that gonna work out down the road when our residents in the town of Clarkdale can't replace their windows with metal clad windows and so forth? Our homes in Clarkdale are on the National Register. If you were to replace those windows on a current house in Clarkdale with a metal clad window, it may no longer be eligible for listing on the National Register, or not on the National Register. It may rescind the tax effort or the tax amount that was given to that building. That, you know, there's a let me see what the word is for it. If you file for a tax reduction based upon a historic property, and then you change the look of the historic property, it also has to go through SHPO to be verified that those windows look the same as they once did. And also when you do rehabilitation on windows of buildings, you never change from a wood window to a metal window. That's right in the National Historic Interior Preservation Guidelines. You can read that right in there. It says, under no circumstances, change from wood to metal or from metal to wood. It says always stay on course and keep the wood windows. I have no problem with changing windows. Quite obviously, windows wear out. I just think that a wood window would be much better suited for a historic structure. The Clarkdale building there, the town hall and the building that's on Main Street, is a very focal point of this town. And it's not some distant building way off in a corner. And the windows on that building are in view shed of everybody that passes by. So our first impression is, when we come to Clarkdale, is it a historic building with windows that meet the historic code of all these different agencies that say that we should follow? I have to follow the historic code. I have to follow the Interior Secretary guidelines. I cannot change the windows. on the building across the street. They have to be wood windows. It's all in the guidelines. It's all in the National Park Service guidelines and so forth. So metal windows, I get it. Wood windows, I think are a much better option for that building, since it is the very focal point of this town and so forth. Somebody said that wood windows, don't last as long. Wood's changed over the years. We have new wood. There's all sorts of different woods that don't rot anymore compared to windows that did rot years ago and so forth. Yeah, it's the property tax reduction that we get in many homes in the town of Clarkdale apply for and so forth. So some buildings are of a higher standard in this town than other buildings. Those buildings might be the very focal point of town as well. And I think our building, this building in town, the town hall, should have a higher standard. We're setting the bar for many other folks in town besides just the town center. But we should look at that as, maybe we should look into that as well. First impression, our front yard. That building's our front yard. We want the wrong windows on there, or want the right windows on there? I think do it right. Put the wood windows on there and I think we'll be just fine. I don't think it'll cost any more. First choice of the National Historic Register is to repair the windows as well, not to just replace them. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I
Thank
do
you.
have someone online. Amanda Arnold would like to know, will the metal clad windows take the town buildings off the registry?
No.
Says no.
No, these, if you look in the packet, there are photos in there from the manufacturer showing other projects much larger than this, where those buildings have had their windows replaced using these windows.
She didn't have a comment back.
An excellent question. Thank you, Ms. Arnold.
So since the subject has been breached or actually broached, why did we go ahead with metal clad windows instead of a higher quality of wood?
Well, because the metal clad windows last a whole lot longer. You can see the condition of the windows in the community development building that were replaced about 15, 20 years ago. So they last us so much longer than the wooden windows.
Okay,
That's the main reason. Plus we can get, dual pane glass. They're a much
Right.
better product.
Okay, and they're visually
Right.
virtually identical.
So we
from
took
the-
these little put them up in the windows,
Right,
and it was almost impossible to tell the difference. Because basically, these two together,
right. And so that's one of the criteria for the building stain on the registers, that they appear to look as they were originally, even though they may not actually be original.
right?
All right, I just want to get that down on the record.
Yes, sir.
To make sure my light was on there. I was just gonna say, I think when we were looking at the windows earlier today, it's clear that part of the issue is that they haven't been taken care of. So I think part of it is neglect. But obviously, the metal clad is gonna help take care of that. I'm guessing part of the issue, as it was with the bandstand, is that there's not enough staff to take care of the windows in the way that they would need to be. And so I would just say this is a solution to that, I think.
Okay. Commissioner Linder?
So I think what we're dealing with is age Those windows are 109 years old. Along with the fact that they had been replaced, or some of them had been replaced when portion of the building was renovated and it wasn't a good match. I agree with the comments that we really want to make sure that we get it right. And this really is a wood window. It just happens to have metal cladding. And these windows do sit up really high. So they're not going to be as noticeable, I think, as they would have been if they'd been on the ground level. And kind of to my disappointment, even the new windows that were installed in this building just a few years ago are already badly peeling. So I think that we really do have quality issues no matter who the vendor is, and that wood windows require an awful lot of maintenance. But you can walk right out in front and look at the windows here on the front that were just replaced. What was it, 5 years ago? Not even that, maybe?
I think that happened, yeah, it's about 5 years.
About 5 years ago, and they're already, badly peeling. And so they probably wouldn't last if they didn't get the maintenance. So I guess I see the pictures. I think that from the photos, without seeing the real thing, the photos appear that they may meet the criteria. I would just feel more comfortable if somebody from SHPO would weigh in and
Sure.
give us an opinion, since, the town really should be setting the example for everybody else on Main Street. We don't have an ordinance for the homes in Clarkdale. And when you drive through the homes in Clarkdale, you can see some really good replacement windows, and we see some very bad replacement windows. I just think it would probably be better all the way around if we had, somebody from SHPO weigh in on this. And that way, I think we could feel that we made a very good decision, that we checked all the boxes. Even though they appear to meet the criteria. Like I said, they aren't all metal, they're wood with metal cladding, and I understand the reason for that, just seeing how badly weathered the windows are out here. But I really would like to make sure that they do have the proper look, and that we don't, run afoul of SHPO to the extent that when we get to an actual building on Main Street, an owner could come back and say, well, you didn't follow the proper procedures yourself.
Commissioner Stein.
Going to say something maybe a bit abstract or potentially. We could take, so I concur. I mean, if it would make everyone comfortable to check with SHPO to make sure that a metal clad window won't compromise our efforts. However, it's a wooden window that has a superficial covering of metal, which will protect the wood and make it endure. And we could take the argument to, we should only be using the original materials in the window further back and state, well, when the windows were first installed in 1906, they used lead-based paint. So we should only paint the trim with lead-based paint, and we should only use the same chemical compositions or materials from 1906. There's a difference between preservation and conservation when it comes to artifacts and architectural structures. And I think it's important to balance the advantages of current materials and understand that it really, I've used this word before, and I know you take offense to it, but a lot of it is just the facade. And if it continues to appear to match the style or the design of its original intention. So I agree with you with checking the box, but I think it's also important to move forward and say what's in the best interest of a public structure. And I'm not sure that this building is necessarily the front door to Clarkdale, in that 89A, and traffic from Prescott comes over the mountain through Jerome. And so perhaps it's that large piece of property right at the roundabout near the cement plant that might be our front door soon. Just going to slide that sucker in there. Thank you very much.
Commissioner.
So you said these windows were used in other structures. Maybe do we know if any of the other customers had got with SHPO and they've approved them as,
I haven't talked to any other customers in Arizona that have done it.
I was just curious if, contacting SHPO might take a lot longer if we knew of somebody else in Prescott or some other historic, or had used those vendors, or the supplier had somebody that we
can
could
ask the
contact.
supplier.
Maybe we speed up the process. I don't know if that's
Well,
acceptable.
Well, how fast would SHPO get back to us on this?
I'd have to call them and find out. Usually with 30, 45 days. We have a 13-week lead time on the windows,
Okay.
so.
I
Yes,
was-
sir.
I was gonna say this brings up an interesting point, which is maybe we should be asking for a SHPO review for anything that is happening in the town, just to be prudent. I mean, this seems pretty straightforward to me, but if we're gonna do the voluntary SHPO review, maybe we should create some sort of SOP that says anytime we're proposing to do something that could potentially adversely affect a building in town, we're going to the SHPO and asking for their review of it. That way it's defensible to, folks that have questions about it. It's not just us making the decision. It's the experts in the SHPO office doing it.
We can do that.
Okay. Yes, if somebody would like to construct a motion, with the staff recommending, the approval, with the caveat, with the check-in on SHPO with the, metal cladding.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve the replacement of the windows in the Development and Public Works building with the product as presented, contingent upon getting a letter from SHPO indicating that there's no adverse effect.
Second?
I second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Of?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
okay.
Aye.
Aye, okay, that's 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So the next item is the discussion items only, and Ruth is back. with
Right, so
The strategic plan.
you should have clean new copies of the strategic plan. So what I did was go through and based on the priorities we heard last time, went through and rearranged the categories that we had on here before. So the ones that I changed and the ones that we ranked and we discussed at the last meeting are the ones in gold. So number one was the develop a maintenance plan for the bandstand. And then number two was, so that includes all those tasks to work with the contractor to document repairs during rehab, draft a plan in conjunction with the contractor recommendations, Secretary of Interior guidelines, and preservation briefs.
I'm
Excuse me.
sorry, could you tell me where you are on, it's,
Very top.
Very top, right here.
so I'm looking for the very top that says the plan for the bandstand.
Develop maintenance plan for bandstand.
Thanks, sorry, it's,
We all do it. Oh, so those were the two objectives under that, the maintenance plan for the bandstand, and that was the number one ranked task. Number two, I included the sub goals that we talked about for the markers in this, as it's kind of a program for public education. Right, regarding historic preservation and its importance to Clarkdale. So the first one was to expand existing historic markers and kiosks. And those, when we talk about the historic markers, those are the big metal ones that say historic marker on the top. Trying to differentiate because there's several different kinds and trying to keep them all straight gets a little tricky. And so we talked about working with Yan to include Native American perspectives to existing and planned markers, and then review and update the information on the existing historic markers. Goal number 2 is to implement the building history markers. So those would be the ones on the posts out in front of each building, talking about the history of those buildings. So we were going to create a work group to research information for signs for properties in the historic district, determine a design for the signs, research and apply for grants for signage, and then install the signs. So I think that captured everything we talked about last time under the building historic signs, history markers.
Right, and much of that work's already been pre-done because Drake we already have kind of approved a lot of this already.
Right, exactly. We have that, and I still have that mock-up I can bring.
Yeah.
And then revive the Spirit of Clarkdale Award or similar program for recognition of preservation projects. So I talked to Joni about this. The program just kind of died a natural death. Nobody would nominate anybody. It was usually a human a person that was contributed a lot to the community. And so she sent me all the forms, all the documents. It's something that we could, initiate pretty quickly and use it rather than recognizing a person. A rehab project, I think, would be a good use of that. So I have all the stuff. We can go ahead and put something together so that we can get that going. And you wanted the 4th of July for this year, right?
I think that's what we talked about, not what the minutes indicated.
That's what my minutes had.
Free pancakes.
What's that?
The winner gets free pancakes.
So, and we're going to open this up to the entire town,
Well, that's a good question. Do you want to, or does it?
just the
who can
historic
nominate
area.
what?
Yeah, right. So,
That's something that we need to think about.
Yeah, I believe the intent was any structure within the historic district,
okay,
which basically kind of rules out anything west of 16th Street.
okay. Well, anything that would be on the survey, right?
Right.
That was a contributing structure.
Well, contributing or non-contributing, because
Right,
they
right.
could go from non-contributing to contributing.
Right, right. I mean, there's all those sheds and things that, there's some low hanging fruit, I'm just saying.
We have a best shed award.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
all right. So how do we want to, are we going to push that out at an event or on the website, or how do we
The
want to?
Spirit of Clarkdale. So
Yeah.
we can put that on Facebook. We can put it out in the weekly e-news, in Small Talk.
We've got 3 months.
So we can get the word out.
I would think it would need to go out soon if we need time to go through the applicants and choose someone and then. announce it.
Right.
May I speak?
Oh, please, Commissioner Stein.
So we have a definition of what a preservation project is, correct? I mean, we've just discussed the where,
Correct.
what region it would fall within in Clarkdale to be a preservation project. But do we have a definition of what is a preservation project?
We do not have a definition of what a preservation project is.
That might be something that would be helpful to set parameters or guidelines for what a preservation project is.
Anybody want to take a shot at that?
There are a few examples that I think we could look at.
I volunteer Matt.
Yeah, Commissioner Gabbard.
I'd be happy to help with the composition of defining and setting parameters for what a
Okay.
preservation project is.
Great,
So if you guys want to work on that and then send it to me, we can get it out.
great.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, we had to take a little sidetrack there on that. I didn't want to let that get away because would be coming up shortly. Okay. All right, please continue with your presentation.
Okay, so then I moved into the third spot was the create the historic preservation plan. That's something that we can, I think, for the initial plan, we can use the strategic plan and then work on updating that in the future. And then we just I just left the HPO in where it was. I just, because pretty soon that one's gonna be moving down to the bottom. Then the create and maintain inventories of historic property sites, landscape signage and other features. We did talk about that. And then funding and acquisition. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about that other than grant applications. The Heritage Grant Fund will be coming up here in the not too distant future. So we'll be looking at that for a couple of projects. Most likely the historic markers and some of the signage. So we also talked last time about some work groups, but I couldn't from decipher my handwriting and remember who was assigned to what, and it wasn't clear going back to listening to the video. So the initial work groups that we had a while ago was the historic inventory. That was Commissioner Lidner, and someone else said that they would work on that as well.
The historic kiosks,
Yes.
I had Linder and Gabbard.
For
The
the,
interpretive panels around town, including the safety kiosk that was recovered from the patio park neighborhood,
oh, right.
right?
Kiosks. So that's Lidner and Gabbard.
Right, and then the historic the historic or the endangered historic resources, I took that on. But I'm gonna cross-reference that with Commissioner Lindner as well. I did have a chat with the CBO Bob
Bob.
yesterday and as what sort of structures he thought might be eligible for endangered, and he thought, well, all of the town buildings and the gazebo and, you know, basically everything standing around here is endangered. You know, we're working on it, but it's like, well, if it's in progress, is it still endangered even though it hasn't been started, you know, yet? Or how do we want to so I'll come up with some of those criteria and bring it back to the next meeting, since obviously it's not a high priority target. So anyways, and then let's see, what did I have? Information pamphlet. That was going to be part of, once we get the ordinance passed, that would be something we were going to work on. And I had offered to do that. And then the historic photo display, I had Stein and Biggins with the
Yes.
using the Staley photos.
Bailey, is that the name?
Staley, is that right?
I kept wanting to write Stanley.
And then 4th of July for the Spirit of Clarkdale Award. And then we already have the maintenance program for the bandstand. And I didn't have anybody for the circulation signage. So that was open.
Okay, anything else?
Okay. I've not seen anything. Any questions?
So
for
on the second page here under advisory committees, you had the historic inventory. That was probably from a few years ago, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so does that come off the list or do we need to?
No, we can, is that something that the commission wants to go back through? We had talked about that for a while, that there have been properties that have been rehabbed and should go back on, and some that have had
Right,
fixing and
Right.
should come off.
yeah, since the last look at these types of things were way back in the 90s.
Right, the
I-
original
I-
survey,
Yeah,
right?
I think that
96.
we should kind of take that on as a project to update that.
Right, and that would kind of feed itself into that endangered resources list too.
Right.
So Commissioner Linder, if you and I want to work, if you want to work on that,
Sure.
we could. Because I was started plowing through that original survey and it's like, okay, I mean, it really is everything above ground and something's in ground even. We're on that survey, so it's some It was pretty thorough.
It was pretty extensive.
Yeah. Okay, so. Okay.
All right, any other comments,
Any questions?
questions, corrections?
Okay. Let's turn the clock down. Okay. So, okay, I think we're done with that then.
All righty, thank you.
And then, so we'll get another little updated,
Yep.
last page of that plan.
Yes. And there's some formatty things I have to do too, so it'll be all fresh next time again.
Okay.
May I ask?
Commissioner Stein.
May I pose a question? It's procedural, but just at the start of this meeting, there was an individual who was going to speak during the public comments, and he chose not to speak, and we're coming to the conclusion of our meeting, and he has voluntarily left and was not denied an opportunity to speak.
That's correct. Yeah, he
Okay.
voluntarily left. Yeah.
Okay.
I think because of the comments and the decision of the commission, probably encouraged them to move on to another venue.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was not clear to me.
So we can move on to future agenda items. And so I think we've got the Spirit of Clarkdale is going to be on there.
Yep.
And then we're, the meeting where the ordinance was going to be reviewed before passing on to the town council was canceled last month. So are we going to get another opportunity this month to participate in the review of the ordinance before it moves to the town council? That was the planning commission, I think.
So that's the planning commission, on April 16th
Okay. At 4:30.
at 4:30 here.
I think it's important that we're all there.
I would encourage all of us to be
Yep.
present, just in case there's any questions, and, you know, a show of support would be, would be helpful. Okay, and that's all I had on future agenda items. Does any of the other commissioners have other agenda items they want to bring forward?
Would it be possible for us to get just an updated briefing on the status of what's going on with the downtown business block? The Tavasi project, the restaurant, anything else that may be going on, just a status?
Yeah, I can give you a quick status report. The Tavasi, we're waiting on them to get some kitchen design. They've decided they're gonna do food after all. I think I did mention that already. So we're just waiting on that to come in. So they can get going. The restaurant, the Main Street Cafe, we've issued an interior demo permit. They're done cleaning. Was really dirty. And so they're done cleaning and now they're doing interior demo. So they're removing electrical, mechanical, that kind of stuff. And are going to be starting, once they get it all cleared out, they will come back in with a design for interior remodel.
And so that was the newsstand, which was the first one.
Yes, correct. the
Okay,
newsstand.
and then we should have asked Drake while he was here, what's happening with the market?
He's working on the asbestos abatement. So it goes in fits and starts, it seems.
Right.
Lead paint.
Sure, go ahead.
No, it's lead paint, not asbestos.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
lead paint.
Yeah, right. That's right. Back to your point.
Potatoes, please paint, asbestos.
Eesh, okay, all right. Are there any other items? And of course, any of the things we talked about today within the plan that all of the subcommittees and stuff, of course, we can bring forward at the next meeting too, individually. So if you have any progress reports, which I would encourage. Okay. So seeing no other business, unless somebody has anything else they want to bring up, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move. So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second from Stein and Biggins, and all those in favor say aye to adjourn at 7:10.
Aye.
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 Aye.